So normally when we talk about optics, if a lens is going to go really ultra wide, that means it's going to be big. And if that lens is going to go with a really bright aperture, that also means it's going to be big. But then what gives? Because check this out. This is the new Sony FE 16mm f1.8, bright and wide and yet tiny. What's going on here? Something's got to give, and we're going to find out today. I'm Chris Niccolls. This is PetaPixel. Let's dive deeper.
Hey, Jordan here to quickly talk about an issue that anyone editing video is going to struggle with, and that is that accessing rights-free music is a huge pain. But what if I could tell you that you could get lifetime access to a music library with a ton of great and very distinctive music? Well, Audiio is offering that. If I asked you, how much do you think that would be worth? You'd probably be like, I don't know, if even $500 would be a steal. But no, using our PetaPixel offer code, you can get lifetime access to all of Audiio's wonderful rights-free music for only $200. That's an absolute screaming deal. Now, these great deals on an Audiio lifetime membership haven't been around for a while, but they're bringing them back. So stop whatever you're doing right now. Go sign up for a lifetime Audiio membership at a sweet deal that your buddy Jordan and his buddy Chris are offering you today. So click the link in the description below and use our special coupon code and get some great music at a great price right now.
So as usual, we're out here freezing to death on another cold Canadian Arctic day. My beard froze in about 3 seconds, and hopefully this lens and camera will survive the deep freeze. And I just want to say I apologize for the noise, but you know, snow cleanup crews got to do what snow cleanup crews got to do. So let's get back to the handling on this lens. Because I'm going to shoot a lot of landscape or architecture with a lens like this, I want to use filters. So we've got a really nice 67mm filter thread diameter, easy to find. Comes with a shallow, just bayonet style hood. We've got a decent manual focus ring. Like most Sony G lenses, it's a little bit sloppy, but I do like that we get a lot of other controls on such a compact lens. I get a full aperture ring. I can set this for both click or smooth functionality. I also get an autofocus manual focus control switch, a customizable button, and of course I can lock the iris into auto. I should mention that this is not a G Master lens, okay? It's not going to be built to the same degree as the G Master series, but we do still get some weather sealing. We do still get a rubber seal on it. But the best part, other than its compact design, is actually how little it weighs. This lens is just a hair over 300 grams, so it's very easy to fit in a camera bag, very easy to walk around with. That gives us a lot of potential for travel photography, landscapes while you're hiking, all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of appeal here, but I still feel like something is going to have to give or compromise in order to get this lens to be this small. Ooh, it's a nice view. So an ultra-wide lens like this doesn't have to move the elements very far to focus from near to infinity, but having quick autofocus is still nice. So Sony's put twin linear focusing motors in this lens. As you can see, very quick, very snappy, very quiet. And this is a positive thing because if we're doing vlogging, we're going to get nice smooth autofocus. If you're shooting something like skateboarding where you're getting really close, extreme sports like that, it's nice to have the focus track a subject even when it's just a few inches away from you. So in that regard, I think they've done a nice job. Now, whenever we have lenses with fast apertures like this, we want to test for LoCA, longitudinal chromatic aberration, where you get the color fringing in the foreground and background out of focus areas. Now, given that this lens is so wide, if I'm shooting at moderate apertures, Generally, everything's going to be in focus anyways. LoCA is not going to be an issue because we're not going to see out of focus areas. But if you do get close up to subjects shooting wide open at 1.8, you can get shallow depth of field. And as we can see here, actually, minimal LoCA, I'm not really noticing much to worry about. I mean, tiny amounts of fringing, but easily controlled. So this is actually a really good result for such a bright lens. Now, to aid the versatility of this lens, it does do pretty decent close-ups. Nothing macro territory, but still, it is fun to play with. So you're going to get 0.3 magnification. That's like 1 to 3 life-size reproduction, kind of. Not quite, but it's pretty good for the occasional close-up. You do have to get quite close physically, though, like you would with any ultra-wide lens. Given the hood and the lens, you're basically touching. I mean, there's a lot of situations where I'm just resting that hood right onto the surface to shoot with, but I can get that nice, long, pushing perspective, very dramatic kind of close-ups. It's fun. Now, we could certainly see a lens like this being used for a lot of video work. I mean, for vlogging, for sure, it's going to give you that wide angle. Also, any sort of video work where you want to have a smooth aperture, they provided for that. So what about focus breathing? And that's where, as you focus from near to far in your scene, the field of view can change. It can be very distracting. So here you can see there's a little bit of focus breathing, but it's very well controlled. I mean, any focus breathing that is going to show up, you could easily fix with Sony's built-in focus breathing control on a lot of their modern bodies. That does crop just a little bit, but given how wide this lens already starts, you're barely going to notice it. Okay, so we took a little bit of a warm-up sesh in Leopold's Tavern. Had some nice wings, which is great, and a milk stout, which has gone straight to my head. But Leopold's is our, we should make it official, but it's our unofficial bokeh test spot, especially in the wintertime, because you get really nice lights to shoot with. So let's talk about the bokeh on this 16mm lens. So first off, you can see her shooting wide open in the corners. We're not really getting a cat's eye effect. We're just kind of getting a weird oblong shape to those specular highlights as they approach the corners. I don't love it. That does go away though when you go to f2.8. It gets nice and circular, so that's good. We are though seeing some onion rings in the specular highlights, and we are seeing a strong soap bubble effect as well. The bokeh is not great. The background can tend to look a little bit on the harsh side, and I guess that's to be expected when you're trying to keep the cost down. So the wind is picked up, which sucks. It's snowing. Microphones are having a really hard time keeping a charge right now. EVF, the refresh rate on our EVFs is like 8 frames per second. It's very strange, very cold, and my mouth is like, freezing solid. But let's get sharpness out of the way while we can. At 1.8 in the center, as you can see here, it actually is very nice detail, but there is a general lack of contrast, and that does absolutely go away once you stop down a little bit. Here you can see at f4, nice contrast, of course, great detail, very sharp. In the corners at 1.8, again, we are seeing that loss of contrast and also a bit of softness. And that's because this lens does have a fair amount of distortion that is being corrected for to get it to all look nice and rectilinear, not like a fisheye. And so, unfortunately, by doing that, we are losing a bit of sharpness in those corners. When you go to f4, it does help a bit. We certainly get the contrast back, but we're still not getting super sharp extreme corners. Again, this is pretty typical of lenses nowadays. I mean, they're correcting these things digitally afterwards. This is what lets us make such a small lens that still goes this wide. Okay, so no more cold weather. I find myself in my nice warm office, and after our little cold shoot there, Jordan decided to drop the ball and go do, I don't know, whatever else he thinks is important, but I kept working. I went and got some more tests for you guys because there's some other things I really wanted to see on this lens. So first, I was able to find a break in the cloudy weather, get some sunlight, and shoot a flare test. And what I can say here is actually flare is very well controlled, as you can see. Even wide open, I'm not really seeing any major problems. Stop down, there's really no ghosting to worry about. So this is actually doing a really good job as far as flare control goes. I also want to test sunstars because in a lens like this, I might be shooting cityscapes, landscapes, that kind of stuff. So looking at the sunstars here, they're kind of middling. They're not great. I mean, they're not great. You can see here, they're pretty average looking. I mean, they're not terrible, but it's not something I would consider a strength of this lens. So then I thought, well, we've got a 16mm ultrawide with an f1.8 aperture, and it's quite an affordable lens. Could this also be like a versatile astrophotography lens for people that might not have the budget for expensive 1.2 or 1.4 glass? So We didn't really have the weather for astrophotography. It's deathly cold at night and it's super cloudy, so we're not seeing any stars. But I got the next best thing. I got a 45-degree canted shot of downtown Calgary to really push the pinpoints of light to the extreme corners. And as you can see here, first off, coma, very well controlled, but unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of astigmatism. All those pinpoints of light are turning into little seagulls or bats or angels, whatever you visually see, whatever Rorschach test you see when you look at these pinpoints of light. And unfortunately, it's not just relegated to the extreme corners. It actually starts to creep more towards the center part of the lens. So this is not a great result. I mean, unfortunately, astigmatism is really difficult to get rid of. You'd probably have to crop in quite heavily into these photos to cut a lot of it out, but then you're gonna lose megapixels and you're gonna lose that 16mm ultra-wide look. Otherwise, you can absolutely stitch multiple photos together. That would certainly take care of it and would give you really nice shots, but you have to have the skills and expertise to do that, and it is a lot more work. Okay, so let's go back and answer our original question. We've got a really handy, ultra-wide, compact lens that's quite bright. It's sharp, it's got good flare compensation, and it's very small. What's got to give to keep it so affordable? Well, as we've seen, unfortunately, it's not a great astrophotography lens, and the corners at 1.8 aren't brilliant either. And so, I mean, I would really want to use this lens stop down when at all possible. But I think this would be a fantastic little vlog lens and video style lens. I think it's a great travel landscape lens. You know, you're gonna be shooting stop down apertures anyways. It's great on the street. It's great for architecture and even the occasional interior shot, like wide shots of concerts and stuff like that, where you just need the extra light. So I think there's a lot of merit to this lens as long as we keep in mind what its strengths and weaknesses are. So this is a handy little lens, but I mean, we have to keep in mind if you have different goals for it, you might want to look in different places. I mean, first off, the Sony 14mm G Master, it's the same f1.8 aperture, but that lens is actually really easy to carry around. It's compact and it's fantastic optically, also a brilliant astrophotography lens. The only downside is it's like twice the cost of this lens. And in the same boat, you also have the Sigma 14mm 1.4. That's an even bigger lens to carry around. It's heavy, but I love that lens. Double the price, but you are getting extra light. That's a fantastic choice for pretty much any kind of photography as well. Also remember that Sony does make a really handy 20mm f1.8. That lens is compact. It's fantastic optically. I'd say a little bit superior to this lens, and as long as you don't need the extra ultra wide capability that a 16mm offers, that's a really good choice as well. Still, if you're trying to get that ultra wide look and you don't want to break the bank, I think this is an absolutely fantastic choice for you from Sony. So let us know in the comments below what you think about this new lens. We'd love to hear that. Also, check out the PetaPixel.com membership program. $3 a month, $30 a year. You can just view all of PetaPixel.com ad-free, and also we're putting in a lot of nice bonuses, discounts in the merch store, and we're now putting up sample galleries that are a big collaboration with all the PetaPixel staff that you can then look at JPEGs and RAWs of the gear that we review. I think you'll find a lot of value in that. And hey, if you're not sick of us by now, you can absolutely also watch us on the PetaPixel podcast. We have a ton of fun there. We talk about the news as pertains to the photo industry, and I think you'd really enjoy that. Or you can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. Just search for PetaPixel Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.